Self-worth is one of the most influential aspects of ourselves, and it gets cultivated over our lifetime. Self-worth influences how we show up in our relationships, how we interpret conflict, how much joy we allow ourselves, and also the choices that we make in our lives. In many ways, self-worth decides what kind of life we allow ourselves to have. And while most people assume that their sense of self-worth or other people's sense of self-worth is determined by things like wealth or achievements, what we have, or how useful we are to other people, self-worth is really just a story that we carry about who we are and what makes our existence valuable and worthwhile. And regardless of the circumstances that we're in, the truth is that we can become the authors of that internal story. But for most of us, the foundation of that story was set early on by experiences in life like what we were praised for, what we were ignored for, what we learned we had to be in order to be loved or to belong. And as adults, those old stories come to define how we approach creating the life that we want, until we decide to consciously rewrite them. And that's why I'm making this episode today. Because most of us underestimate how much power we have over this inner narrative. And cultivating a healthy sense of self-worth is probably the most important factor deciding how we respond when things are hard, when we're challenged. Because the life that we want and the love that we want, whatever it is that feels out of reach for us, can usually be shifted by working with our narratives around self-worth. And even if you think you have a great sense of self-worth, there are ways of working with shadow here that can be huge. So stay open and stay with me. This is Reclaiming the Gentle Man. I'm Dave Lashansky. Like a lot of my fellow recovering people pleasers, growing up, I learned to prioritize other people's emotions over my own. And this is a trauma response, and it's not directly a measure of self-worth in and of itself, but it affects it profoundly. I saw a post on Substack recently that said, the saddest thing about people-pleasing is how often it starts as a kid just trying to stay safe in a room full of unstable adults. Phew. What happens when we grow up learning to prioritize other people's emotions and well-being in order for us to feel safe? When we do that, we start to subconsciously imbibe a narrative that we're not as important, that our needs aren't as important as other people's. And this is really getting at the heart of why self-worth can be tricky. Because we can hold that to be true, that other people's needs are more important than ours, and still claim to love ourselves, still claim to have a good and healthy sense of self-worth. Many of the stories that I've shared on this podcast were of me failing to prioritize my well-being. And yet, I have always believed that I had a healthy sense of self-worth. But because I grew up learning far more about showing up as good and competent in my life, being a good boyfriend or a good worker or a good son or friend or brother, but I never really learned how to understand my own wants and needs. And that knowing your wants and needs, understanding the importance of giving yourself what you need and taking action accordingly. That might be the best definition of self-worth that's there, right? Understanding the importance of your own needs and taking action accordingly. Because self-worth is the stuff that gets cultivated in the shadows. And to really understand objectively where your sense of self-worth could use some improvement, you have to be able to read between the lines of the ways that you are living and the choices that you make. You have to cultivate the ability to be a more objective witness of your life and of your choices. And this means being able to take a step back and looking at what or who was motivating the choices that have brought you to where you are, big and small. And being objective about it also requires that you learn to witness yourself without the shame or the guilt or the ego stroking that can get you caught up. And guilt and shame and inflating your ego are all thorny paths filled with booby traps that can set you off course, that can take you off course. And this is one of the most important places that we can receive support in our journey. Because one of the best things that a great coach will do for you is hold you accountable to the future that you want. In the end, having a healthy sense of self-worth means that your choices are made in service of the future that you most wish to create. And so when you think about who or what is motivating your choices, if it's not that future that you are intentionally creating, that you want to bring into being, it's your invitation to do some work around self-worth. Healthy self-worth means making choices that are in service of your highest future. And to have this, to reap the benefits of this, to really be able to, with your full power, direct your energy to create that best future, it requires you to build the ability to reflect on what you've done, what you've chosen, without getting distracted, without getting caught up in the weeds of shame and guilt or ego inflation. But one of the biggest sources of distraction and destruction, I think, for most people when it comes to self-worth comes from this desire to make other people comfortable. There has been, especially since the 20th century, I think post-World War II especially, and that's another podcast, but since the mid-20th century at least, there's been this pervasive conditioning in Western culture around the merit of sacrifice and the nature of true sacrifice. That being good means having little, giving a lot, and contributing to the good of the world, and that must be built on self-sacrifice. And now, there is absolutely truth in service requiring sacrifice, but I think we have collectively lost the thread on this one. Many of us consider a good life. There's often shame around wanting more, around wanting comfort and security, wanting extra, wanting abundance. And I don't believe that this collective shame is really anyone's fault, but it is directly tied to the shadowy depths that our self-worth is rooted in. Because if we have shame around wanting, around needing anything to thrive, to feel good and calm and at peace in our lives and bodies, we're going to have to grapple with whatever shame is lurking in those spaces, with whatever shame is preventing us from being able to claim that we want that or need that. And so many of us, instead of grappling with the shame of our wanting, The shame of self-prioritization in a world that needs so much, in a world of such profound excess and despair and unfairness. So many of us, instead of grappling with the shame that comes from boldly claiming what it is that we want, instead make choices that will make other people feel comfortable. My intention here isn't about promoting the merits of selfishness. I'm not talking about ignoring our place in the collective web of existence and life on this planet, but I think many of us see the excess of the world's most rich and powerful and decide that the best thing we can do about that is to shun our own wants and needs to balance the scales in some way. And what I hear most often when I'm working with people is how little grace and generosity that we tend to afford ourselves when it comes to what we need to be our best. And part of being our best, for almost everyone I've ever worked with, inherently includes the service of others, loving service. We want to be contributing. We want to be generous, but we struggle to give to ourselves. And instead of pursuing the life and the activities and the abundance that would enable us to be able to do that, that would give us the resources, the energy, the inspiration to really give of ourselves, to be of service to our communities and our relationships. Instead of boldly claiming that is part of what we want and all that surrounds that and enables that, we instead choose to avoid getting judged for it. We more often than not make choices intended to avoid making other people uncomfortable. And so we sacrifice our dreams. We minimize our dreams, or we just pretend that we're better than the people who would want those things that would enable us to be our best. So often, I witness people inflating their people-pleasing ego by ignoring their soul's calling, choosing the lesser opportunity because it's safer, because it would require less of us, because it's more acceptable to other people. But really, at the heart of all of it, it's because we do not believe that we deserve it, that we are worthy of the better choice. And to ground this, it can look like the following: going out drinking or playing video games so that we can numb out to that inner longing. Surrounding ourselves with people that don't call us higher. People that make us feel small. People that shame us when we talk about what we want, what excites us. Surrounding ourselves with people that enable behaviors that don't make us feel good or alive. Sometimes it's just making small choices every day that have us looping in patterns that create chaos and drama. And I don't share these examples to shame you if they're part of your journey. But it's important to notice if shame is the reaction that comes up if you witness this in your life. The truth is that we all grapple with these things. One of the most human things we can experience is the fear of taking action to bring about our dreams. The fear of making the choices that even move us an inch or a centimeter closer to them. Another human thing we all experience is the guilt of feeling like we've wasted our time or our chances. The reason I'm making this episode is because I want us to reflect on the places where our self-worth can be improved. This is a process that can last a lifetime. It has for me. It continues to be part of my journey, part of my process. Because at every new unfolding, I witness a part of me that didn't feel like it was worthy of receiving something. And the more we do this work, the easier it gets to do that witnessing, to do that inquiry, and get more out of it. It's one of those unique growth processes where when you get good at it, at recognizing where you have been in self-denial, where you've been making choices that are not in service of the future that you actually want to bring about, the more you learn to do that, the faster you get at recognizing the patterns contributing to it. The more profound the impact of actually making those choices in your life, the ones that are in service of the future that you want to create. And this work, the work of developing, cultivating a healthy, positive sense of self-worth, growing your self-worth, is important because every next iteration of you, every evolution of your life and your dreams is going to bring out more of you and call in more of you. And cultivating a foundation of loving self-worth, of positive self-worth, of healthy self-worth that you can return to allows you to make more mistakes and learn from them. Allows you to be human, but not to use your humanness as an excuse to avoid going after what your soul is being drawn to. That's the stuff, regardless of how far you go, regardless of the outcomes, that's the stuff that makes for a great story. And what I'd consider a good life. And I'm not sure that there is anything more worthy of pursuing, whatever that means to you. Thank you for listening to this episode of Reclaiming the Gentle Man. Some exciting updates for you. We have another offering of Letting Love In, an activation workshop happening on December 4th at 4 p.m. Pacific time. You can sign up at davelashansky.com. Please join live for this one. It's going to be really fun and profound. Last time was great. People were sending me beautiful messages of the things that they were getting out of it. It's meant to be an activation for you to step into your power, just like we're talking about in these episodes, for how to make the life that you want through your own means, through your own being and doing. It's a free workshop. Consider what you have to gain, because you have nothing to lose here. I'm also opening up spots for the first time in about a year for my private one-to-one coaching. I have been working only with past clients for the past year and am finally opening my books up to new clients. So if you're interested in learning more about that, you can get in touch again at davelashansky.com, or you can DM me on Instagram at Dave_Lashansky. Wherever this holiday season finds you, I hope you are finding peace and finding new ways to thrive. Please remember, you are not in this alone. And if at any moment you are feeling profoundly misunderstood, trust that that is an invitation calling you to this next iteration of your life. May it be the best ever. I'll be back in a week.